Salve, mihi nomen est Marque Antopniu, and I'll be talking about Crassus, his rise, his downfall, and also about Roman society's views of him and biases towards him. Crassus was born into a pretty wealthy family. His dad was a senator and was also a big supporter of Sulla, a Roman general. When Sulla was away fighting a war in Asia, Gaius Marius killed a lot of his followers in Rome, and one of them was Crassus's father. So Crassus decides to escape to Spain, where he'll hide and where he also builds an army for Sulla for when Sulla returns. And when he returns, Sulla defeats Marius and implements a policy called proscription, where he basically just takes Marius' stuff, all of his assets, and also Marius' allies' assets. And so Crassus gets some of this too, and becomes pretty rich. Crassus, in addition, would buy houses that had been burnt down or collapsed and would rebuild them with his slaves, and he acquired a large real estate empire that way. Crassus also had a rivalry with Pompey. This is because Pompey was, although he was younger than Crassus, he was well liked by Sulla and the public for his great campaigns, and so this kind of made Crassus jealous. In 73 BC, Spartacus, a former gladiator, incited a slave revolt, and was actually able to defeat some of the Roman praetors who were sent to kill him. And so, although Spartacus wanted to make his way out of Italy back to his homeland, which was, I think, in the Balkans, his men didn't really want to, even though their homelands were also outside of Italy too. But they were overcome by greed, and they just wanted to rampage around Italy, taking whatever they wanted. Eventually, Crassus is sent to defeat him, and he does. Although, at one point in time during the war, he asked for some help, and he later regrets this because he realizes Pompey's coming to help him, and that he actually has things under control, and that Pompey will get the credit if he does anything. And so, at the very end of the last battle, after it was clear that Crassus would win, Pompey helped out a little bit and got all the credit, and Crassus was pretty angry. Pompey and Crassus were consuls together at one point in time. It was a very unsuccessful consulship because they disagreed about everything. After that, though, Caesar came to them and suggested that they form a triumvirate in order to hold on to the power and not let anybody else have it. So Pompey and Crassus loved that. They formed a triumvirate, and Crassus acquired Syria. Although it's a little bit of a smaller province compared to Gaul and Spain, it was considered by Romans to be a very prosperous, wealthy province because they considered the East more developed than the West. So Crassus got a good deal here. But he was just too greedy. He wanted more, so he wanted to invade Parthia. He would not consider Syria, not even Parthia, as the boundaries of his success, according to Plutarch. And he started bragging a lot, which wasn't really like him. He just became really greedy and not a good person. And that led to him dying. He stupidly engaged in a war with the Parthians, although repeatedly told not to. He also consistently made bad decision after bad decision, got tricked a lot by the Parthians, and his army was completely decimated, and Rome was completely humiliated by this defeat. Crassus is then hated by the Romans, actually, and it is rumored that gold was poured down his throat, and that's how he was killed. That's not true, but it just shows how greedy people thought he really was. So who was Plutarch? Plutarch was a Greek philosopher. He wrote his lives, and in them he compares a lot of Romans to Greeks. A lot of them are lost, actually, but we still have 22. He didn't really write history. He instead wrote about the lives of people who weren't necessarily evil or good, mainly like moral stories. He wanted to tell stories. And you can kind of get a sense of what's happened here, the moral here, how greed is bad. Crassus wasn't actually that bad of a guy beforehand, but became too greedy, and that led to his death and people hating him. Spartacus's men were very, very greedy, and instead of trying to escape to their homelands, they just rampage and take what they want and eventually are defeated. So Plutarch obviously doesn't like greed, but we can also get from this that Romans valued war victories much more than political achievements, and that's why Pompey was much more popular than Crassus. That's it. Thank you for listening.